Hi everybody. I'm feeling a bit flustered. I've just been looking for my little microphone attachment for about 50 minutes. I've been ransacking the whole year and I couldn't find it, and then I just decided, you know what, I'm just gonna film it anyway. And guess where it was? Stuck in my camera. Needless to say, I'm super excited to be sitting down speaking into a microphone with you today. Yay! Especially big welcome if you are new to unschooling or you're thinking about unschooling, because this video is kind of for you really. I want to start being super helpful rather than super random for people who want to embark on this amazing journey of self-directed learning for their family. If you are new here, definitely hit subscribe, and even if you're old around here, can I suggest that you hit the little bell icon, because that way you'll get notified when I make new films, which is obviously win-win all around. A lot of people I encounter say, oh, I'd love to do what you're doing, but I just don't have the... And then they list like a bunch of things that leave me going, I don't have those things either. So they might say, oh, I don't have the patience, or I don't have any teaching experience, or I don't have the organizational skills to pull off any kind of homeschooling. They might say, we don't have tons of money or tons of resources. And I'm kind of thinking in my head, yep, neither, especially organizational skills. However, we're all getting along pretty well with life without school. My kids are 8.5 and 6, so we've only been kind of technically doing it for a few years, but really we've been doing it their whole life, because I believe that it's basically just an attitude to living rather than specifically anything that happens around age 5 or whatever. We've just basically carried on parenting the way that we did when the kids were born, which was with a lot of trust in our kids' ability to learn everything they need to learn. But I do reckon there are 3 things that come in very, very handy when you're embarking on this journey of self-directed learning with your kids. And if you are new to this journey of self-directed learning with your kids or home education, I just kind of want to say a huge well done. What you're doing is so, so brave, and it's a really big leap to do something so countercultural. And I really believe that what you're deciding to do with your family, living a life without school, will have a really transformative effect on your life, on your children's life, and even the world. Because we need way more families who are dedicated to empowering their children, respecting their children, giving them heaps of autonomy over their learning, giving them different ideas about authority, and heaps of freedom to simply be themselves. Having said all that, I don't necessarily think that home education is for everybody. Controversial! And that is because I really think that there are tons of women out there who are called to different things. They have dreams that have been put on their heart, and their goal in life is to fulfill those dreams. And at this point in time, it's actually really tricky for parents to get enough time to fulfill those dreams while home editing. Sometimes I think that I am one of those women. But fortunately, we're in a situation where my husband, Tim, fully takes half of the home education responsibility. So I get 3 whole days a week, completely to myself with my own plans. And honestly, if I didn't have those 3 days a week, I actually think we would probably have to move in order to find a place for our kids to experience self-directed learning, but not at home. So yeah, bit of a long-winded way to say I really don't think it's healthy for mothers, because it nearly always is mothers. Sorry, but it's the truth. It falls to mothers so often. I don't think it's healthy for mothers to feel hamstrung by their decision to home educate. I just don't think it is. So if you're someone with a big dream on your heart, you might want to think about that. You might want to go into homeschooling with like absolutely dedicated to making sure you get enough time in the week by either being part of a home education co-op or having a dealio with your partner or a friend or a neighbor. You need to definitely make sure you've got time to fulfill the dreams on your heart. It's so important. Okay, but with no further ado, jeepers Lucy, here are my 3 things that you absolutely need, I reckon. But I'm interested to hear from you because, like I say, I don't know everything. These are the 3 things that we put in our official form to government to get kind of permission to home educate. And please note, none of it is stuff. You don't need stuff. Okay, so number 1, basically parents just need to have a curious mind themselves. I reckon that is number 1 thing. Parents need to be excited about learning, excited about living. They need to be open to opportunities. They need to be curious and resourceful about what is happening around them every day. I reckon growing up in that kind of landscape, children will just absolutely thrive. Of course, you can't be like that every single day, right? You're allowed to have like lazy days. That's all good. But it's kind of like a general attitude towards life. I think that that is a super healthy building block for children, is to simply have parents who are like, wow, the world is like this big source of amazingness. Let's explore it. Yeah. So it helps if you're basically a bit of a big kid. I know that for me, I have a huge block around the word museums. When I hear the word museum, my whole body like shuts down, like, oh my God, somebody's gonna make me learn something. Because I had so many traumatic visits to the museum when I was a kid, where they would like give me a piece of paper and I had to fill out this exact thing about these Egyptian mummies, when really I wanted to like run off to the other part of the museum and look through the microscopes or something. So don't feel that you don't have a curious mind. Every human has a curious mind, but you might want to do a little bit of work to kind of reinvigorate your passion for learning. And the only thing I would say, the only trick to that, I think, is to do more of what you love. Do more of it. What are you fascinated by? Give yourself time to explore it. Okay, number 2, I reckon it's pretty imperative for people to have a community. Now, we love our community around us because we get support from other parents, like when we got to get stuff done. Like just yesterday, I could text my friend Nina and be like, freaking out, we've got so much coming up this week, can you just have the girls for a few hours? And she was like, yes, and everybody had fun, it was amazing. So we've got a super supportive community around us. We can talk about any issues or challenges we're having, and also our kids get their needs met by having a lot of playmates. So we aren't having to like fulfill imagination roles with our kids. I find that kids want to spend a lot of their time in imagination, and that's tricky for parents to meet that need a lot of the time. But having said that, your community might not be physical. I know that there are homeschoolers who are doing it absolutely in the middle of nowhere, but they probably do have some form of supportive community, perhaps online. And that is because this is such a subversive countercultural thing that neurologically it's important not to feel under attack and defensive constantly. That is not a good state of being. So you need to have enough relationships that fire up the parts in your brain that make you feel a sense of trust, a sense of peace, a sense of, yep, we can do this, we're supported in our radical decision making. So, and in fact, when we first moved to New Zealand, that was what we were looking for. We were like, we just want to move to a place where there is a thriving home educating scene. And that was really our primary goal. I talk a lot about how to build community 2 videos back, so you can skip back there if you want to find out more about how you can kind of build and thrive in a community. And number 3, the third thing that I think is crucial, is a base level of respect and trust in your child, because that is really the big world-changing radical thing that we are doing here. The world can be a super harsh place on kids. Half the time we talk like our kids aren't even there. We do things all the time that make them lose their dignity. Sometimes I feel like the whole infrastructure of our society is incredibly prejudiced against children and young people. And by taking this radical step towards self-directed learning, we're saying, nah, I reject that. I trust my child to learn what they need to do, and I will respect my child and afford them the rights and dignity of any other human being. Like having lazy days, you also have days where you wobble, where maybe you're not feeling resourced enough as a parent and you might get a bit shouty. You know what, those days do happen, But we repair relationship with our children after that. We say sorry, we bring it up, we say we're going to try better the next day. Those wobbly days definitely happen, and I extend empathy to you, and I hope that you can extend empathy to yourself on those wobbly days. And perhaps you might also have days where you're like, are we doing the best thing by our children by doing the self-directed learning malarkey? You know, that's kind of totally natural. As long as you can keep, after those wobbly days, returning to the sense of, I absolutely respect my child, their dignity, their autonomy, and I trust in them. Sometimes on those wobbly days, it helps to do a little bit of journaling, a little bit of list making about all the things your children have learned up until this point. You will be absolutely amazed. And of course, it probably won't match up to any list that you see on the internet about what they should be learning, or any list that you have in your head. There's an amazing quote out there that says something like, be the parent to who your child is, not to your expectation of your child. And I really love that, because it reminds us to just keep seeing our child with fresh eyes for who they really are, for what they really want to learn, and how they really want to learn it. Because we as adults are hugely imprisoned by learning norms, by absolutely random ways of learning that have been like put on our society for around 120 years. A lot of what we think about learning and education comes from like the Victorian era, and we're learning so much more about kids' brains and learning that we really don't need all of that stuff. But somewhere inside of us it's still there, and we have this idea that kids should be writing by 5, reading by 6, doing long multiplication by 9, all this totally random stuff, and it is so not true, because every kid is absolutely different. And just remind yourself that when your kid isn't learning this, it's because they're learning this. There's not some big vacuum happening where they're simply not learning. It's because all of their brain power is going on all of this stuff. And soon these other bits will all kind of integrate. But it might be quite a lot later than you think it might be, because they're so busy doing all this other stuff. I hope that's helpful. I'd love to hear from you. You can connect with me on Patreon. I'm doing a live stream next week about this topic. You can connect on Facebook and Instagram. Much love, and stay radical.